Hello, everybody. So, today we're going to do our last financial math lecture. So, after this, you should be able to start on the. Actually, you should be able to do the entire final project. It might look long. It's a few. But I think the description of it is just as long, if not longer, than your actual projects will be. So I know there's only a few weeks left in the semester. Might feel a little late to be trying to do a final project, but like I say, it's taking the place of our final exam, and I really don't think it's I think it's manageable. Good. So still contact me if you have any questions or concerns about that. Otherwise, I'll just leave it there for you all to work on and trust that that'll happen. Good. So today, this is, what's the day? 4/14, 20, and today, section 10.5 on consumer debt. So we've talked a lot about interest, and most of our examples were how interest can help you. If you buy a CD, a certificate of deposit, or if you get a bond, or just via savings accounts, all of these things are retirement savings. All of these things are ways that you can use interest to your advantage. But I think it's also important to talk about how interest can work against you. So that's what we're going to talk about today. And our two main topics will be credit cards, and in particular credit card debt. And the second thing we'll talk about is installment loans. And amortization. This is the process of paying off installment loans. So, yeah, these are the two really common kinds of debt that people find themselves in. Credit card debt is often less intentional. So, nobody intends on going into credit card debt when they get a credit card. You would buy one thinking that you would pay everything off on time and things would be good. But this isn't always the way it works out. So, we'll talk a little bit about how you can avoid credit card debt, how serious it could be, and all of that. Then we'll move on to installment loans. This is much more like this is the kind of debt that people plan on going into. This covers like mortgages on a house, or loans on a car, or anything that you might take out like a big chunk of money and need to pay back in installments. Good. So we'll get to that later. But the first section is credit card debt. So I guess I'll give you a couple little statistics first. So according to the Federal Reserve, actually we can look at it together here in a second. So data shows that this year in 2020, the total consumer debt in the United States was about $4.2 trillion. Total consumer debt in the U.S. was $4.188 trillion. So and a lot of that, so of this 1.642 trillion in student loan debt, and similar 1/3 was credit card debt. So we can look at that here. I actually have it here. So this is quite interesting. This is the federalreserve.gov, and it was cited in the textbook. So then I just typed in the website with a couple of backslashes, and it brings you to this consumer credit, G19. And so these are some numbers. So the one we were looking for was this consumer credit outstanding. So this is outstanding credit, and consumer debt is what covers all of our individual, like, personal debt. So the total in 2015, this is measured in billions of dollars, was 3.4. So 3,400 billion is about 3.4 trillion. So then, and if we look over here in 2020, we're up over 4 trillion in consumer debt, and where it says here major holders, so depository institutions. Here we are, credit. So over a trillion in credit. So maybe I should have said 1/4. You know, so this is real data that we're looking at right here. About 1/4 is credit card debt. And we scroll down here, I found student loans. Student loans not applicable in 2020 yet, but end of 2019, $1.6 trillion in student debt. That's enormous. So, good. Let's continue. Let's talk about how to calculate credit card debt. What are some important things you should know? So here we go. Credit card debt. So credit cards in general should be a good thing. They're in a capitalist society. They're supposed to benefit everybody, in the sense that credit cards allow consumers to spend more than in a cash-only economy. So you spend more than you have, really, but in the idea of it should work out. Everybody should be able to pay off once they get pay their debt off once they get paid at the end of the month. And if everybody paid their debt off, but we were still spending more than we could in a cash economy, more than in a cash-only economy. So if everything worked out nicely, both the merchants and the consumers would see benefits. So in ideal case, this benefits both the merchants and the consumers. But as we'll see, I mean, as you all know, probably it's not always the ideal case. So, a couple little statistics: about 1/3 of American cardholders carry a balance or some debt from month to month. This is even higher for college students. So that's quite a few people who are not paying off their bills every month. 4/5 of holders don't know how the charges on their card are calculated, and 1/3 of those holders didn't even know what their APR was on their credit card. So we're going to make sure that you that you know all of these things, so that if and when you get a credit card, or if you already have a credit card, maybe you can go back and figure some of these things out if you didn't know already. So some basics. Terminology, so that we can talk about these things. I'm going to scroll down, start a new page there. Good. Okay. So, if you pay if you pay the balance on time, everything, some basics. Why don't I say some basics and terminology? Some basics and terminology. Good. Because I actually want to give a kind of an overview. So if you pay your balance on time, everything is interest free. So that's a big thing. So credit card companies only get money from you really when you're in debt. So the credit card companies themselves are banking on everyone being in debt, because if you pay everything off every month, then then everything is interest free. If you carry a revolving balance, as they call it, so that is to say that you don't pay everything, so you don't pay in full. Then you incur what they call finance charges. Finance charges. So what are finance charges? They're charges both on the balance and that you didn't pay, and on any new purchases. In the next billing cycle. So underlining words that are probably good to know. Yes. So what that means is normally you don't get any charges on the things that you buy, but as soon as you have some debt accumulated, now they're going to start charging you interest on everything you buy while you already have debt. So that's what that means. You'll receive a statement, and that statement is going to look like it's going to have your previous balance minus the payment made by you plus the finance charges plus any new charges that you've made. Good. And if you haven't paid by the due date, late payment penalties. If previous month not paid by due date. Okay, so those are kind of the basics that we'll be using. And now I think it's time to do an example, because that's kind of the best way to really understand these things. Okay, so let's do an example. So say you have a MasterCard. With APR of 17.24%. This should strike you as higher than a lot of the APRs that we've been talking about in the past. I mean, kind of makes sense that you're gonna the ones that benefit you, you're going to get a smaller APR than the ones that benefit a credit card company. But yeah, watch out for interest rates for credit card companies, because 17.24% is pretty high, and it's very average for on standard purchases. Even more if you want cash advance. So 17.24% APR on standard purchases. The billing cycle is going to start on the 25th of each month and ends on the 24th of the following. Okay. Sorry, that doesn't look like month. I'll just leave it like that. Usually you pay on time in this scenario. Usually you've been paying your bills on time, but maybe in April you went on vacation on spring break and you charged more than usual. So say in April you go on vacation and carry a $500. So maybe you had charged $500 more than you could pay off at the end of that billing cycle. So carry a $500 revolving balance. On the April 25th through May 24th billing cycle. Okay. So let's just do some calculations, and we'll find out what kind of finance charges will you see. Let's see. How much you will incur in finance charges. So let's do some calculations. So say that your statement looks like this. I'll do it in blue. May 25th, the beginning of this May cycle, you have your previous balance of $500. Okay? And then on May 28th, say you pay your phone bill for, say, $85.75. Using these numbers from the book. Then June 5th, one day before my birthday, you pay your gas bill, and that makes let's say your gas bill's for $45. And June 16th, you pay for groceries, and you spend $73.60. Okay. So maybe those are the only four things that you have on your credit card in the month of May, and in that billing cycle from May 25th to June 24th. Lots of people will have a credit card and a debit card and only charge a few things to their credit card. That's really a smart idea. If you want to build up a good credit score, it's worth just buying a few things on your credit card that you really know you can pay off, because more than just the finance charges and the debt that our fictional example person will accumulate, credit scores are also, that's something we won't talk about today because they're more complicated than I can talk about. But yes, something to consider, that going into credit card debt is problematic for multiple reasons. Good. So the thing that we want to find in the crucial thing that we need to find is your average daily balance. So this is like the average amount of money that you had in your account, or that you had on your credit card bill, on any given day. So basically, like at the beginning of the month, you only had 500 on your balance, but then after 3 days, you added $85.75 to your balance, and so it was a little bit higher. And then on June 5th, it got a little higher, and on June 16th, it got a little higher. So we want to find your average daily balance. So, what is this? And why do we need to find this? Because finance charges are computed by simple interest applied to the average daily balance. Good. So what do we need to find? We need to find the periodic interest rate. So, first of all, what's the average daily balance? The average daily balance is going to be the number of days. So is going to be the sum of your daily balance on each day. The sum of balance on each day of the cycle divided by the number of days in the cycle. All right. Good. So, to get, on average, what your balance was on a given day. Okay. So what is this? So let's see. So for us, this is all average daily balance is going to be, so we had $500 balance for 3 days. So we can do 500 times 3 plus, then we had $85 more, so that's $585.75 for how many days? May 28th, 29th, 30th, 31st, so 8 days. So plus 585.75 times 8 days plus, so then what? Then we added 45 to that. So we add 45 and 85, 75, and we get 120, 130.75. Add that to 500, and we get 630.75. So plus 630, 75 times 11 days is the next one, because that's the number 11 days between June 5th and June 16th. And then 8 more days until June 24th, with $73 more, gives us plus $705.35 for the last 9 days. Sorry, so then we have 16th, 17th, 18th, 19th, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24. Yes, that's 9 days. And we'll divide all of that by 31. That's the number of days in, I mean, of course, the number of days in your billing cycle is going to change slightly. But yeah, so from month to month, because if it starts on the same day of the month and ends on the same day of the month, yeah. Okay, and so once you do all of this out, being careful of how you do your order of operations and stuff. I won't do the whole calculator thing. We will get an average of 627.85. All right. So now we want to find the simple interest at 17.24% APR on this daily balance, right? So we will apply simple interest at 17.24% APR, yes. Okay, but we need to find the periodic interest rate. R is going to be 0.1724, right? So remember, so that's our so that's our annual interest rate expressed as a decimal, and our periodic interest rate P for a period of 31 days. So that's going to be our P is going to be R divided by 365. So that's how we're going to find our daily interest rate. And then we're going to multiply it by 31. And so if we do this, it's going to be 0.17, what was it? 24 divided by 365. So that's our daily interest rate. And then I'm going to multiply that by the number of days in the current cycle, and I'm going to get 0.01464. 0.01464 if I round it, approximately. Okay, good. So now that we've done that, we can apply simple interest at this periodic rate, and we'll recall the simple interest formula. It's our simple interest formula. That was good. Oh yeah. So we're going to multiply our average daily balance by our periodic interest rate, P, and then we're going to find out how much we paid in interest over that time, right? So, good. So interest or finance charges. So that's going to be your average daily balance multiplied by your periodic interest rate. And so in our case, that's going to give us 627.85. Multiplied by periodic interest rate there, 0.01464. And what we're going to get is 627.85 times 0.01464. And all right, so we're going to get about $9.19 of interest. Approximately equal to $9.19. Okay, so this might not seem like a whole lot of interest, but remember this is just on 1 month with not very many things purchased, and this can accumulate quite quickly, as you might imagine, over the course of months, because loan sharks, you remember back to our example about loan sharks, over a shorter period of time, it can get tricky to know just how much $9 really is. I mean, of course, it's the price of a, good sandwich, but it adds up. So, not much, or may not seem like much, be too large a sum, but this accumulates quickly, and our balance was relatively low. Okay, good. So that's that. I'll just give a little checklist, and then we'll finish the credit cards section, and then I guess I'll come back with a separate video and do installment loans. So a credit card checklist. I'm going to be a moralist for a minute, so if you don't want to listen to or if you don't want to listen to the book tell you what to do with your money, sign off now. Pay your balance each month. All right. Know the APR on your card, so that then you can do these calculations and stuff. You can look back at our video. If you look in your book, they have links to, there are all kinds of little widgets if you Google search, like APR, credit card debt calculator, all these things. Installment loans, you can definitely do that. There are widgets online to calculate these things. Or you can pull out a piece of paper and do the math. And yeah. So know the APR on your card. Be careful of what they call teaser rates, which are lower, which are low for the first few months, and then higher than average. Because those first few months really won't make that big of a difference if you're going to keep it for the long run. Good. So try not to use your credit card for cash advances, because those APRs are much higher for cash advances. Try not to use credit for cash advances. Usually a much higher APR if you do it like that. Good. Pay attention to the due dates. Might seem obvious, but really they can get you in trouble. Pay attention to due dates. And finally, they said don't be fooled into thinking it's only plastic. because I think that's a common psychological thing for a lot of people. So it's only plastic. It's not real money, but it is. And it can affect your life more than cash will. So good. Okay, I'll stop the video here and I'll start another one on installment loans.